Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Mazda Furai in multiplayer. Now in my opinion, this is one of the coolest looking cars in the entire game, so I decided why not do a multiplayer video about it since I don't know of anybody else who has. So my rank is 1410, my tuning is 0502, my pro kits are 5020. I pro tires instead of drivetrain because that increased the rank less for the same amount of speed boost. Now let's get to our first race. I thought this would be a decent multiplayer car since it has a stock to max pro rank increase of around 400, which is decent, but it turned out to not be so great, as you will see in this video. At a rank of 1410, it can only reach 240, sometimes 241 miles per hour with this tuning. You may also be wondering, why didn't I go for the standard tuning of 5050 in Pro Kits? Well, this car uses 28 rotary engines. Those are the legendary engines that are some of the hardest in the game to get. And I'm lucky I was able to get enough to pro the car to where I got it to, since the only thing it uses in Pro Kits is rotary engines. And it's not really worth spending more of those engines on because, as you can see here, it is not very good in multiplayer. It's struggling against a Rinspeed Zen, which, while not being a terrible multiplayer car, it's still not the greatest, and if I'm struggling against it, that's not that great of a sign. However, I'm still keeping up pretty well, so I guess it's not terrible. There are worse multiplayer cars at this rank, but this just isn't very good. And something happened to him back there. I'm not sure what. He never wrecked, so maybe he got stuck? I don't know. So another thing about this car that I don't like is its nitro efficiency is actually quite bad, which is not good for a car that doesn't have good top speed. However, its drifting and handling are amazing. It is also one of the most stable cars that I've ever driven, and it is quite fun to drive because of its handling and drifting being so good. So that Rinspeed Zen never caught up to me, even on a 2-lap race. So let's see what his rank was. It was a 1386 double boosted one. I made a multiplayer video about the Zen a while back, almost at that exact rank, so check it out. Now in this race, I will be further proving how bad this car really is for multiplayer. That car ahead of me is a Max Pro'd Range Rover, who is slightly higher than me, but not by too much. He accelerates faster, has better nitro efficiency, and around the same speed, I want to say, even though it's Max Pro'd. It's never a good sign when your multiplayer-tuned B-Class car goes the same speed or slower than a Max Pro'd C-Class car. Plus, even with this car's great drifting and handling, the Range Rover's is even better. So, it might be better in all aspects than this car, which is kind of sad. I went to the left of the shipping container back there because some people say it's faster, and I've seen some people go that way. I'm not sure if it's faster or not, but if it is, it's probably only by a few frames. Now at the end of this building, you can in fact flat spin off of it, which is very useful if you have a car with bad nitro efficiency like this one. While its drifting is not quite as good as I thought it was originally, that can be negated by doing micro drifts around sharp turns because of its great handling. So, we have lost to a Max Pro'd Range Rover. It's a sad day, especially with me being triple boosted and him only being double boosted. But I did actually beat another Max Pro'd double boosted Range Rover, so not bad, I guess. So in this race, there are 2 more Range Rovers, one of them a Max Pro'd black one, along with 2 F1 cars. So this should be interesting. As you can see, the F1 cars start up faster to me, and thus I get knocked down. So up here, I decided to go kind of aggressively against this black Range Rover. I guess I was upset about getting beat by a black Range Rover the other time. So before I made this video, I was going through some of the decals for this car that I had, because there were quite a lot, and I picked this one because it really highlighted the car quite well, and I thought it looked really neat. But since some of the decals could only come in one color, I found out later that there was a purple paint for this car that I was not able to put on it since I was just looking through the decals. Yeah. So now we are catching up somewhat quickly to the other Range Rover in this race, and I believe he is a lower one because I am in fact catching up. And he somehow glitched behind me. I'm not sure why that would have happened, because usually the cars glitch ahead of you instead of glitching behind you, but yeah, good for me. So around these corners, you'll see while the drifting of this car might not be the best, it is still quite good and can get around these S-turns very easily. And I also like it quite a bit because sometimes the cars with really good drifting abilities are too good, and they wreck on the inside. This car won't do that. It takes the turns very nicely, unless they're super sharp. So while we lost to those two F1 cars, the M14A and the MP48, we did beat those two Range Rovers down there. But it's not a good sign when your car loses to an M14A that is lower than you. So yes, more proof that this car really isn't good. So now for a race on Barcelona against three Camaros. I'm pretty sure we all know how this is going to go, seeing how this car struggles to beat Max Pro'd Range Rovers. Yeah, this car is not worth the price. I bought it for $500,000, and then guess what? On the next day, it went on sale for 25% off. Oh well. But unless you're planning to get the licenses in its mastery, there's really no other reason to buy this car, because it's not good in multiplayer, as you can see here. Those two Camaros have already passed me. And it's not good in events either. I don't know of a single event where this car was decent. But even though those two Camaros are ahead of us, there's still that one Camaro behind. And while playing this race, I did not realize that it was another Camaro because it was going so slow. You don't usually expect Camaros to go that slowly at this rank. But it turned out to be that car right behind me was a Camaro. You may not believe me, but that's what it ended up being. The only advantage the Furai has over the Camaro, be it a slight one, is its better drifting ability. So up here, that Camaro right ahead of me wrecked because he hit the wall, and I was able to get around it just fine. If it had been a one-lap race, I would have beaten two Camaros. But since the Camaros have realized that if they mess up on a one-lap race, it may be somewhat difficult to win, even against bad multiplayer cars like this one. So all the Camaro drivers choose 2 or 3 laps. I always chose 3 laps in a Camaro or Homage because that usually forces 2 laps. Now here, this Camaro finally caught up to me and decided he didn't want to worry about me again, so he knocked me down. And yeah, that pretty much ruined my race. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has had a good race, but then I've gotten a knockdown that may or may not should have happened, and then it just completely ruined it. Now, one unique thing about this car is the lights on the back. As you can see, they're in like weird wire formations, and I'm not really sure why they decided to do that, but it's very unique and looks really cool in my opinion. So I have finished 4th behind 3 Camaros, one of them being unboosted. That was the one that took a while to catch up to me. I say unboosted even though he was running an extra tank, because extra tank by itself doesn't really do much of anything. Maybe in this race I can stop my streak of going down in position on every single clip of this video. Now, this car does start up faster than the Asterion, but then the Cigaris was able to knock me down, because hitting cars from behind makes you lose speed, or at least stop gaining speed while you're behind them. So that is why it is usually good practice in multiplayer to knock down people from the side like I just did there, because I did not lose any speed. Well, Azure Coast is one of those tracks that the Camaros and the Cigarises can just really dominate on at this rank, so I really have no chance. But coming up here, I want to show the real power of this car's micro-drifting. These S-curves can be a real pain in bad drifting cars, but because of this handling, I was able to drift punch around the first one pretty well. Now these next ones are really tight, so I just did some quick micro-drifts. As I said in my Subaru Impreza video, micro-drifting is really good for cars whose handling is better than their drifting. Now here, it is actually faster to quickly drift and go left like I just did, than to go right, but it is usually risky, and if you're in a faster car, I would not recommend trying to do that at all. However, if you're in a slower car like this one, or even slower than this, it might be a good idea, because it can give you a little edge over your opponents if they don't know how to do it. I actually got quite good matchmaking in this race. There was no one at a higher rank than me, so the Cigaris finished 22 seconds ahead of me and the Camaro 28. Now for our final race on Barcelona against 2 Camaros yet again and a BMW M2. I tried to knock that Camaro down, but Gameloft does not like to give me knockdowns a lot of the time. It's kind of sad. This car is so slow at its rank that even the M2 is faster than me. The M2 is actually faster than this car at a whole almost 200 ranks below me. Now up here, I tried to go left so he wouldn't knock me down, but he instead pushed me off, and the little pointy thing in the middle separated us. But now, that M2, who went the short way, wrecked, and he gets put further back, And so, even though I went the long way, I'm able to get ahead of him at this point. I think one of the Camaros knocked that M2 down. Don't tune your M2 this high, guys. Keep it below 1300, and I'd say below 1260-ish rank, because above that, you face a bunch of Camaros and stuff that are faster than you, and you have no real advantage anymore. All you're going to be beating is terrible cars like this one for the most part. So now it's time for me to give my consensus on this car. It's just not worth it. With a cost of 500,000 credits and being very expensive to upgrade, and being completely useless except if you want to get its licenses, this car is not a good buy. So that M2 never caught up with us and we managed to beat him. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed it and found the tips in it to be helpful, and please consider subscribing for more Asphalt 8 videos. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!